This episode of the Sacred Sons podcast is brought to you by Four Visions Market. At Sacred Sons, brotherhood is the medicine, and many of the men in our community also partake in sacred plant medicines and practices. Four Visions Market empowers and supports more than 30 different indigenous artists and their families through their beyond fair trade purchase of their spiritual tools and art. Four Visions Market sources the highest quality made-in-prayer medicines, and they are a bridge to over 15 Amazonian tribes. 50% of the proceeds of your purchase goes directly to the tribes, artisans, and healers. And I'm happy to say that for Convergence 7 generations, we partnered with Four Visions Market. They sent us some beautiful gifts. One of my favorites is the white Amazonian copal oil. I also love the wide array of hape, tepes, caripas that they have. My personal favorite is the hape from the Yawanawa tribe. And Four Visions Market hape is the freshest, highest quality on the market, using traditional recipes the indigenous communities have used for centuries. We are living in a pivotal time when these medicines are coming out of the jungle to be shared with all of us. And in order to facilitate the healing and awakening for humanity, it has to be done in a good way. It has to be done in full reciprocity, and Four Visions Market is the source for these medicines. This is the new old way. If you are interested, please go to fourvisionsmarket.com. That's F-O-U-R, visionsmarket.com, and use the code, all caps, Sacred Sons, for 15% off your first order. Much love, fam. Grand Rising Soul Family. Adam Jackson here with another episode of the Sacred Sons podcast. Today we are coming to you live from Liberty Arising in Jacumba, California at Sacred Sons EMX, the Embodied Masculine Experience. And I'm honored to bring through my brother, ceremonialist, and friend, Fabian, from the Realization Nation.
Hey, there we go. I was waiting for that.
Yeah, so today we're going to get into topics on ceremony, ritual, plant medicines, the jungle, and ayahuasca, a medicine that is dear to both of us, and something that we talk a lot about, just in our passings and daily conversations, but we've never really had an opportunity to broadcast it.
Yet, we've talked about the beginnings of all this and how it's all connected through this also.
It's all connected from the beginning. For Sacred Sons work, I went and sat in ceremony to ask permission to lead in this work, to build, to call in community. And I see that's something that you're also doing in your way. And so you are one who brings folks down to the jungle and takes people to, meet the Shipibo family that you've been with for a long time. What was your first time going to the jungle and meeting the Shipibo people?
The first one that sent me all the way to the depths of the jungle, I would say, was really the place that I was at the moment in my life, looking for answers. And it so happened that a friend of mine, was already going to go, and I had been researching this. And this is how it works, It just, as the saying goes, it finds you, or the call comes out. And it was exactly that. I'd been researching it, and this was popping up in my radar. And then 2 days later, a friend goes like, "Hey, I'm going to the jungle. Have you ever heard of ayahuasca?" And I was like, yeah, I just started researching this and was wondering, how do you find...
How can I get connected to this thing?
Where do you find a shaman in the Amazon?
Yeah.
And at that moment, I knew that was the call. And I connected with it. And so I answered that call, and I went. And, and just jumping into what I came out on that first ceremony with was two messages, two clear messages that to this day they still resonate, which ties to this, all this that we're doing. Yeah. Was answer the call and find the others.
Find the others.
Yeah. So this plays right in.
Yeah.
And it keeps playing in. And there's more others that just keep showing up.
Yeah. My first sit I had just gone to Peru. I was in Cusco. I went to Machu Picchu, and I was also seeking. And I didn't get that call down there. But right when I got back to California, a close friend of mine hit me up, and she's like, Adam, there's a medicine woman in Joshua Tree, and you have to meet her. And she's got this medicine. And I was like, I'm also looking for it. I'm also researching and finding it. And my initial sit was to prepare for fatherhood. It was when Noah was 6 months in the womb. And so I was going with the intention of initiation and ritual to prepare myself. Mm-hmm. What was your initial call?
Heartbreak. Yeah, heartbreak sent me looking for why. It was the question why. Really, it was that. I finally got to the most important question of why for myself. And that was the moment that I was ready. Like, I believe that it's until you get to that moment when you've just given up, you've surrendered to it, and you go like, okay, why? Why is this happening? That it opened me up, and then everything starts coming. It just started popping up, the right people, the right places. As a matter of fact, when that first initial ceremony, first shaman I meet, I'm like, whoa, this guy, like, I resonate with him. We were speaking Spanish. He's like, you look like me when I was younger. You know, and I had this father figure of him also. I was like, wow, this is like interesting. I'm really connected to this guy. And at the end of that first, those 3 ceremonies, I get this message of answer the call in Spanish, conteste la llamada. And it was just like this clear, like, you know, like a voice. And I didn't know none of this. I had no idea. I was over my head, as a matter of fact, when I was in there with that first ceremony. And leaving that last ceremony, he's like, it was good meeting you. Conteste la llamada. He tells me that.
No.
And I'm like,
answer the call.
Whoa. How'd you know? And it was like, yeah, the whole message that I had received, he just reflected it back to me. So that was confirmation. Yeah. I didn't know what that meant, though. Still, nonetheless. So I came back home, answered the call. What does that mean? And so I pondered that. And the way that it kind of seeped in, one way, the major way, was really like the sounds that I picked up in the jungle.
Wow.
The music, the Icaros, everything. I was like, how did they do that? That sent me like into these deep realms within myself. So I started researching sound and music and vibration. And that's really how that tied into a place where I started with like a bowl. I got a metal bowl. I started like just kind of playing the bowl and playing for friends. I'd be like, hey, close your eyes, check this out. Yeah. And that expanded and that kept expanding.
All the way to the point now, you're here with 80 men leading full sound journeys, you know, with so many instruments in your repertoire. One of the things I love about you as a ceremonialist in this work is how connected you are to the sounds. And you even, in fact, bring the sounds of the jungle into these spaces.
Yeah. So some people might not be able to make it to the jungle with me or just ever get to step foot in it. So to be able to bring that in, it's like bringing the medicine over here. And that's been a bridge for me, connecting people. And I see how that works. Like people will get up and be like, whoa, I was in the jungle right now. Yeah. I'm like, oh, they felt the medicine. Yeah. Like literally, you know, so the medicine seeps out. It works in so many ways.
Vibration. So,
I mean, this whole, everything that, just like you were saying, that like you came into here after ceremony, seeing connection, it's connection. You know, it's like the vine. It just connects and it's rooted. So I see it working, rippling out through all this work. And
was this Morrow who you're describing?
No, there was several different maestros I went through learning from different people, and then initiations, and then moving on to something else. I learned something, I moved to somebody else. And I was really learning, because sometimes in this, and this goes not just medicine, but just in any way, you sometimes have to learn kind of the hard way. You know, like you think this is it, and next thing you know, you're like, whoa, this is just a regular man also. And so some of those were lessons and initiations for me, and I just moved on. And so that helped me refine to find the right teachers. Yeah. Until like I'd find one teacher I stuck with for 8 years. You know, and eventually same thing. Hey, the message was like time to move on, And so it's just been this constant expansion. And now working with my friend Mauro. And so we've been working together, and now it's like this cohesive friendship, learning. He's like, hey, I'm no greater, you're no greater. We work together, like side by side.
Wow.
Yeah.
And one of the things I also love about you is you are one who, when you did answer the call, you did call in the others. You did find the others to take down to the jungle.
Yeah.
And so I've seen you take not only brothers from Sacred Sons, but people from all around the world to experience this medicine. And what has that been like? It's like you're a bridge, certainly, but you're also like taking these folks on pilgrimage.
Yeah, completely. That's what it feels like when knowing what we're about to embark on. Me knowing that they don't know what they're about to embark on is just amazing, because I'm like, I sometimes take a picture of them before we even go, just to later show them what they're going to look like when they come back. I'm like, look, that's what you looked like before you went into the jungle, before you got jungle-fied and you come back. And being a bridge has been awesome because I know what they're going to bring back. I know that like this is like so reciprocal. They're going to come back and it's going to ripple out. And then I get messages. They're like, hey, a coworker has seen the change in me and they changed their diet. Like something as simple as that, I'm like, whoa, the medicine's working. It's rippling out in all those ways. They may not have to go and sit in front of a shaman and drink, but it ripples out in just how people come back and their ways. In regards to find the others, from that first trip to the jungle, when I came back, it was so much information that it was like, if they said, hey, here's 1 minute inside this library, you get to research and learn as much as you can. 1 minute, go. It was kind of frantic. And so I was like, I need to go back and this time get 5 minutes, next time 20 minutes, next time an hour, next time, and study and start picking up the learnings. And so it's been, I feel like I'm just maybe 5 minutes in the library.
Oh, wow. Even after all of the ceremonies, all of the journeys.
It's continuous learning. There's so much when you think that you've got it.
And you've told me previously, within this learning, it's not really about figuring anything out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like to feel, it is to experience. And so what have you experienced?
And going back to saying that I just feel like I'm just barely in it, just barely almost 5 minutes in the library, is exactly that coming back has been something that a major lesson I've applied into this from the jungle is I can't figure it all out. I can't solve it. I can't stop world hunger. I can't stop the war. I can't stop it, And originally I came back ready to stop everything. I was like, I'm going to save the world.
It invokes a certain altruism.
Yeah, that happens. A lot of people, that starts up in a minute. And so, but what over all this time,
like, look what we're doing.
I mean, some of it does trickle out this way. But what did happen was from that, over time, and this is working with even master plans, like doing dietas, also getting deeper teachings, was just learning how to navigate through it. And this is what this realm, this world, this reality, whatever you want to call it, it exactly is. It's not meant to be solved. It's not meant to, yes, we do our parts. Don't get me wrong. We're like, hey, I want clean water for everybody. Hey, I want world peace, all these things. Mm. But it was just, let's see how you navigate through this, And so I've taken this learning deeply within of how I'm navigating my life, And things are going to hit me. They do. I get hit still, but it's become much more of a polishing, in my life. So that feels good to me.
Yeah.
And in just that, the medicine, people get the medicine. They're just like, okay, you're just being yourself. That's all. That's really been the biggest thing for me walking out of this.
So you mentioned heartbreak as like the reason you went into the jungle. Has heartbreak been like a theme in your life?
Yeah.
And I guess like in all of your searching, like how's your heart?
Ooh. Sweet.
We're going in.
Well, yeah, it starts as heartbreak, but I've been able to change that into heartbreaking open. It's heartbreaking open always.
Yes.
We get caught up in the heartbreak,
Yes.
but it's heartbreaking open always,
Yes.
you know? And hey, it'll happen again, you know, loss. People are going to leave, you know, nothing's permanent. And so, but I can hold that now with just knowing that it's heartbreaking open. This is just the way the heart works. The heart's going to do what the heart is going to do always. As much as I may fight it and be like, oh, that's not what I want. This is not the plan. Well, sometimes my plan's not the plan. There's a bigger plan, you know? And so when I do look at it as heartbreaking open, that allows me to see the world, same thing, to navigate the world with the open heart, you know? And there's sadness in it. There's, you know, hey, I carry sadness. I carry it in there in a way that helps me move forward, being able to like look at that and console it and share it and make it be visible to others that it's okay also. It's all part of it, you know? And the medicine shows that to you in ceremony. It shows it to me. It's like, hey, here's you, this is you sad. What's that? And you're like, ooh, or here's your anger, here's your shame. And some of that stuff I don't want to see. You know, it's like, look at it. And I'm like, ooh, I don't want to look at it. And when I look at it, what happens? Let me clear that out. And some of that is the act of purging that out on this medicine. Yeah. You know, so some people are like, I don't want to purge, but sometimes it's just looking at yourself in that. I'm like, wow, let me cleanse that out.
So I mentioned my initial sit was to prepare for fatherhood. And I had this incredible experience of meeting my son before he was born, while he's in the womb. And this is 9 years ago now, but it was him. And it was this incredible soul-connecting experience. And I got confirmation that we had been together in previous lifetimes and that we were coming back into this lifetime and that we made an agreement to do that. And that first night, yes, heart cracked open. The second night, I was like face plant in the desert, spinning, feeling depleted, feeling helpless. And the medicine woman came to me and she's saying, you know, remember your intentions for fatherhood. And I'm like, I feel helpless. I'm like, I never feel helpless. She's like, remember your intention. I was like, this is what babies feel like. You know, this is what it feels like to not be able to communicate, to not be able to like express. And she showed me this nurturing heart of the great mother. And she sang me an ikaro as I laid there in my helplessness, in my sorrow, you know, in that sadness that you're speaking of. And it prepared me because I'm like, oh, this is what it's going to take. This is what he's going to need as he's coming through. So the messages, yes, they don't always come from blissed out experience. Sometimes they come from the depth of pain, and in my case, of sorrow.
Yeah, and sometimes they come from deeper than your intention. I tell people, hey, come with an intention, but also let go of your intention.
Come with the intention of letting go of your intention.
Yeah. Because we could get hung up on that, and next thing you know, it's like, oh, well, if you know this, then why aren't you doing something about it?
Right.
Let me show you the root of that even deeper. And that's when it goes into, let me put you into as your child, what your child's going to feel. Let me put you into the shoes of your father or your great-great-grandfather.
Yes.
You know, and so people literally feel that. Like, I've been in place of my mother. I was in place of my mother grieving the loss of her mother.
Right.
To feel that.
Right.
You know, like how could I?
To feel it, and also to transmute it for the lineage.
For the lineage, that's where that work's done. Just feeling it, it's almost tangible. Yeah. You know, to experience that, and so to be able to work in these, you know, quantum spaces where I'm looking at from every angle. I'm on my mother looking at myself. You know, people will give birth to themselves. Exactly that. So to have those, you know, to have those experiences heals that line.
Yeah.
You know, that you understand and you can see it and it's cleared up and in the ethers, but also in this realm, you know, to be able to look back in the past, let's say, confirms where I'm at right now, which tells me where I'm going in the future. So it's all happening in real time in that space. Yeah.
So let's go back to the past. You're also a father. Mm-hmm. it hasn't been an easy road for you, let's say. You've also been incarcerated. Mm-hmm. It's one of the things about doing this work in Sacred Sons. It's like when we're in these spaces, and I ask these questions often, like how many men have been locked up and hands go up. And in so many instances, our brothers out there are being locked up, are being put away. And so how is coming from that experience, and maybe you could tell me a little bit about that, but like how is coming from that experience into this world, how does that happen? Yeah,
a lot of brothers don't make it out either.
Right.
A lot of brothers come out here but aren't able to make it. You know, I'm blessed to have been able to turn that into this for my life, you know, that I had to go there. I literally had to go to that place, and no regrets either.
Wow.
Learned a lot. In my early 20s, you know, when I just had my daughter too, she was about 2 years old.
When you went
when I went in and spent 4.5 years in the federal system.
Wow.
So not too many people know this, but I do share it because I could, especially when these brothers come in and they you know, hey, I've been there. I'm like, I've been there too. Yeah. They're like, wait a minute, but you
know you're on this pedestal.
Yeah,
you're
like,
the sound guy.
You're doing this. I'm like, no. I'm like, and so then that connects, and they can see the journey, what I've been through, you know. And so, yeah, I can't regret it. If anything, I have to almost be grateful for it.
Wow.
Yeah, I've come to a place of gratitude, but it did send me to the jungle. Also, I had to clear that in the jungle.
Yeah.
All that.
What was that like?
That's a lot of purging, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was ready to give up. I was like, why am I going to come here if I have to face all that again, you know?
Yeah.
But I had to go through all the fear that I had in there, the fears that got me into that place. Just where I was at early 20s, lost, dealing in drugs, money, all the textbook stuff.
Yeah.
And it got me there, but I had to like strip it all down once again. It's very much similar to like ceremony, you know? Yeah. There's this stripping down, there's this breaking down. And, you know, I've been talking to some of the guys here, and they're beat. They're like sunburned, they're emotionally drained. They're like, man, my shoulder and all this. And I'm like, yeah, good work.
Yes.
Just stripping the chassis down, you know, like taking the rust off all the way to the bare bones to build it back up.
Yeah.
You know, and that could take, you know, without guidance, like that's important because, yeah, you get out there, you're just raw. But coming back and having this type of support, amazing to just be able to put the pieces back together and to see, you know, so a guy that maybe just got out, he could see in me, he's like, whoa, okay, I can make it too.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And so I don't have to talk about it, just more be that, you know? And so that's where I've been able to embody that in just the way I'm carrying myself, really. Yeah.
And I remember our first official council of men. Before it was called Sacred Sons, you know? It was just sacred.
Yeah.
We're going to meet up in
I remember
in
you
the
said,
desert.
You're like, hey, Fabian, will you come and just, I don't know, bring the sacred?
That's what
you said. And that's when I came, I'm like, all right, let me open the ceremony.
Yeah.
But I remember that gathering, and it was like, I don't know what, just less than 20 of us, I think.
Yeah, there's 16.
Yeah, and at that time I was carrying something heavy in my heart, was my connection with my daughter.
Yeah.
Healing the part that I was not present for my daughter.
Yeah.
You know, and seeing the disconnect, I'm like, oh, I created this, and now I want to heal it, but also on her time, not just on my time.
Yeah.
You know, she's going through her teens, she was disconnected, and I just wanted that connection so deeply. And I'm like, what do I do? And it was Brother Kai sitting next to me that gave me some awesome medicine. He was young, and he's like, hey, I see that because I want my connection. My father.
He was coming from the son perspective, wanting to reconnect.
And I was like, oh, wow, it's possible. And with this work and just all of it, like constantly showing up for my daughter, like just going like, hey, I'm here. And when you're ready, you know? And so, the day came when that I had been praying for, when it was just like, boom, all of a sudden she's just connected to me like, hey, Dad, how are you? and reaching out. And I was like, oh, the prayers have been answered.
Yeah.
And now we have this connection. And she's like, you going to the jungle again, Dad? I'm like, yeah, okay. And she sees all this work.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's she sees me. Oh, she sees me. Heck,
she sees you and she feels you.
Yeah.
You know,
and
you're feeling your presence once again. So what, like, I hear the advice in there, but what advice would you give a father who may be disconnected, not present from their child? I'm talking about like adult children, or babies, but what advice would you give to a father who wants to reconnect?
Showing up in any way, even if they don't want it. You know, like, yeah, there's a time when, like, my daughter was like, yo, I'm figuring myself out. You're not cool. You know, little did she know. Later on, she's like, she's
cool.
Bringing her friends over. She's like, hey, this is my dad.
They're like, your dad's so cool.
And her friends are telling her, like, your dad's cool. And so,
that's funny.
Like, keep showing up. Like, I just kept messaging her, like, hey, I'm here anytime, you know, I love you. All that, like, just keep showing up in any possible way, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, because things change. I believe people can change, you know, and it may take years, but if you're just consistent, it's your intention, it's your prayer that you're putting out, like, hey, I want this.
Yeah.
So it's going to happen, you know? And so, so it took some years, but then she came around and it's now just a beautiful bond. And I'm like, oh, okay, she sees me. And I had to come, you know, to her and explain my past. You know, when she was like old enough to understand it and
to ask questions,
yeah,
to be interested,
and also just to let her know like where I was and what happened. You know, share that part of myself that it was hard. I want my daughter to see me as like, oh, this great father. But I was like, hey, this is what I did. This is why I wasn't around for you during this time. But I'm here. I'm back.
Yeah.
You know, and even during that time, I was still reaching out. But she was small. But my daughter's 22 now.
Yeah.
She's a woman.
Yeah.
You know, and so being able to see her heart, I'm like, oh, that's part of me. Like, oh, it's so good. It's a confirmation also for me, you know, and so just heart breaks open again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel so many may be in that situation, but may not make the reconnection in this lifetime. And this is a part of answering the call too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's not always outside of us. It's not about necessarily the others. It's like our direct descendants, our parents, our grandparents. There is more than enough space in this lifetime to heal it now so that we're not passing it on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's the work. That is the work.
Yeah, that's the work. You know, sometimes people want to, you know, they want to do the big picture once again, you know, save the world. I'm like, how's your relationship with just your partner or something? Like, hey, just work on that. With your child, with your boss, with whatever it is. Like, that's the work right there. It doesn't have to be this grand thing. Just that alone. This is grassroots. All this is grassroots, you know, because just our connection here, your connection ripples out from there to your circle and so on, you know. And so I deeply believe in that.
Yeah.
That's really the true work, is just with love your neighbor.
Yeah. So let's talk about ceremony. I feel like a lot of people may have seen you in our videos and your videos on Instagram. Follow Realization Nation. The bull roar.
The bull roar.
Popularized by yourself at our ceremonies. I've never really even asked you where that came in, but like, there's a beautiful aspect that's carried in many cultures where we call in directions. We call in the 4 directions, but the 7 directions. This is something that you are so incredibly gifted at doing. And, you know, now at this point, you've opened so many portals for thousands and thousands of men. What first connected you to the directions and to that opening ceremony?
I mean, along the lines as I started learning, like, sitting in ceremonies, everybody opens the ceremony. You got to open it.
You have to.
You can't just start
Not only the
right
ceremony,
into
but the portal.
Yeah, but the portal,
into.
the intention, the prayer, the what's about to be done. And And so learning that, I kind of started getting pieces from everywhere and just really created it myself. What feels true to me. What's my connection with spirit, with the elements, with earth, with everything around me. It doesn't have to be a certain way for me. And so in that was exactly that when you literally told me, like, bring the sacred, that was the first thing that was like, okay, we need to open this ceremony in a good way because that sets the tone. And a lot of men that come, they've never been in a ceremony. They've never been in a circle like this.
They never stood in a circle.
They never stood in a circle. Nonetheless, over 100 men. And so over these years, like I see how much that can affect just when they first step in, because that sets a tone for them. They're like, oh, this is something extra special because I'm feeling tingling in my body. I'm listening to the words. I'm looking up to the sky. And it's no religion, no whatever. It's your own personal feeling. It's what's opening up within you. The portal, we could say the portal opens up, yes, energetically calling all this energy in, but also the portal within everybody.
Yeah.
Like ultimately, that's how I end it is, hey, bring everything. The seventh direction, bring it, all that comes into your heart. Your soul. Because it all comes back in, all the elements, all the directions. And so when people feel that, they're like, wow, I'm connected to all this, And so that's how, as for the bull roar, I had this instrument. I came across this instrument a long time ago at a instrument shop. And I looked at it and I was like, what is this? And the guy told me that it's a bull roar. And he just said, remember Crocodile Dundee? And he uses it in Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah.
And so...
What's the scene that
he's just whipping it around.
Is he whistling and doing it?
No, he's just... He's on the top of something. Yeah, and I was like, okay, cool. And I never even used it. And it wasn't until that first time that I brought it through that I used it.
Really?
Yeah, that was the first time I really used it. And...
Dude, you're connected to the bull roar.
Oh, and
through Crocodile Dundee.
Oh my God, yeah. Good looking crocodile. And so
real quick, it's just it's a really interesting observation of our culture and of our generation, because everything is medicine.
Yeah,
everything is the sacred, right?
And that's what I mean. That I'm bringing elements from even this. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's creating your own thing. Yes, there's traditions. And there's, honor and respect for these traditions. But we're in a time right now that we have access to everything. And so I'm putting pieces together that feel good, in a good way, obviously, like honoring where it comes from.
Yeah.
And so when I brought that through, it just made sense. I'm like, okay, this feels like the right instrument for this.
Yeah.
And the bull roar, and then I researched it. And then I decided to research it. I'm like, bull roar, what is this? And what comes up, ancient instrument used by several different cultures. Aboriginal also has been found in Native American, also found in South America.
Oh, wow.
And they have collections of them in museums. Oh, there's ancient little pieces with the string.
Yeah.
And what was it used for? For opening ceremonies and for groups of men.
Get out of here.
Oh, you could look it up on Wikipedia.
For groups of men, it says that?
Yeah. It was that women were not meant to use it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was that sacred. It was like for the men's.
Wow.
And so for like initiations. And so I was like,
that is so powerful.
Oh, it makes sense. And so when I'm using it, it creates this like centrifuge, this G-force where it pulls it outwards, and it pulls it, and I feel it pulling me out, and I have to anchor it back down. I have to pull my core, anchor it, ground down, and so it pulls it back down, and it pulls it back up, and I'm pulling it back down, and it's this like energetic opening. This almost this toroidal energy starts, and so I started making them, and I was like, oh, this guy's got to carry these, and whenever I go camping or hiking or something, I'm at the top of somewhere, I'm like, oh, let me open this up, let me bring in this good energy in, and I'm in the center of it, acting as the conduit of that. As well as like here, when we open it up, it's like I'm the conduit of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it filters through me.
When you channel those directions, I understand you're sourcing from aspects of your life, but there are certain pieces that you say that I'm always just like, I'm always waiting for you to say, soar wing to wing with your brothers.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Or could you break down the directions and what the meaning of the directions are?
Besides the elements of earth, water, wind, fire, air, also is calling in these totems or these arcanas, we call them, these protectors. And in the jungle, the jaguar is a potent energy that's come through me, and I'm connected to that. So calling in the mother jaguar energy to teach us grace, how to walk in strength, but in grace, and to be able to see through the darkness. The serpent, with its coiling itself around us, protecting this space, teaching us how to stay close to the earth, belly to the earth, and flowing and moving. And
what do you say as we shed our skin?
As we shed our skin, as the snake is representative of transformation, exactly that. Yes. It sheds its skin, it's renewed always. So in these weekends, guys are just shedding skin and coming out like all brand new. And so exactly that's these old scales that we're just removing. And then calling in the grandmother and the grandfather and the hummingbird. And the hummingbird, just this lightness, like also doesn't have to be so heavy. This work is also, remember, to be light, to travel in all directions. And then calling in these ancestors to warm themselves next to us, like come to our fire. And then the condor and the eagle, the connection, the old prophecy of north and south, of upper, lower, coming together, and
this is it.
And that piece comes through.
This
is exactly what we're doing, and so having that awareness of it is like, oh, we can actually now really bring it through. Not just that it's a dream or just a story; it's actually happening right now. Right. And so calling that in and saying, hey, wing to wing with these guys that are standing next to each other, it just made sense. Like we're literally spreading our wings out and soaring over the mountains that we dare to even believe that we could ever fly over. Yes. Calling in.
Dare to dream.
Yeah, that we dare to dream of. And yet here we are.
Every time Fabian says that, it hits me. It hits.
and here we are doing it. We're literally side by side helping each other.
Wing.
And seeing each other and flying and soaring higher and higher.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these guys get to walk away. And then bringing these guys back down to the earth, connecting to the ground, and some of these guys have probably never even done that, like paid that much awareness into like, oh yeah, this ground is supporting me. I'm walking on this dirt. It's been here for millennia. Yeah. And then the sky and the sun. Raising your hands up to Father Sun, to Inti Sol. And so there's these parts of these traditions that have been carried on forever, Inti Sol. It's like giving life.
Yeah.
And keep bringing us together as your sacred sons.
Yes.
And then ultimately bringing it all back into ourselves.
Yeah. And when you're evoking that, is there a sense that the medicine is in you? The medicine is also working its way. I feel it in holding space in this men's work and masculine alchemy. I feel the essence of all of the ceremonies that I've participated in.
Yeah, it's a culmination of everything. And everything that I'm even sharing with you right now is exactly at that moment coming through. Yes. Everything I've experienced, fatherhood, prison, the medicine, the ceremonies, it's all culminated into that moment. That's exactly why it could come through in that way. If I didn't have those experiences, I don't know, maybe I wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah.
I had to go through all that in order to, just for that moment.
I've seen other people try, bro. I've seen them try to.
And that, hey.
Some of the guys got the wonky arm,
Yeah.
They can't open the portal like you.
You need to get grounded down. Ground that.
Yeah.
And
it comes from a real place within you. That's what I absolutely feel, and I know the brothers in the circle feel it as well.
Yeah. So good. That's all that I want. It's just guys to feel what I feel, what I'm feeling at that moment. And it's just love. I look around. I mean, sometimes, I'm whipping that thing up there and I could, for a moment, look down and I can make contact with the brother, and that ripples through. And I'm seeing the energy just going through everybody. I'm like, okay, this is it's open. The portal is open.
Portal is open. Does it ever close?
Yeah, there's also a moment that we also close that portal within the bigger ceremony, let's say. Because also the work that is being done here is very specific. That we also come in, we open it, and we close it just to let it be grounded. But the portal within these guys stays open, you know?
Yeah.
That stays open. And also what we've called in, like, hey, we're opening this. Like, this is what we do. We're keeping this energy alive, you know, honoring ancestors, honoring the lands. Like, that's forever. This has been done forever.
This has been done forever. And honoring the directions and honoring the mother, like the great mother. This is a part of, you know, what Sacred Sons is bringing through. We're returning to the sacred. We are the sacred, and it's in the acknowledgement of that that really sets the stage for the deep work and the deep healing to take place.
Yeah.
You know?
And in that also is doing it in a way that's grounded. Kind of like you say, there might be a wonky arm out there doing it, trying it. But there's a lot that's going on out there in the world also that's being done. There's a lot of ceremonies. There's a lot of stuff that's being done.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah.
One of the things I really respect about you, and you mentioned that you sat with one person for 8 years, and a family, a Shipibo family, yeah.
Yeah.
And so you are one who has I've experienced you as a seeker and going to the jungle.
As this maestro once told me, he goes, the more sickness there is, the more medicine is needed.
Yeah.
You know, and so I do see that part. I'm like, okay, this medicine, all these medicines, all these ancient practices are coming out. You know, they're making their way into the Western world. They're making a way. And with that also comes, you know, the misuse. And so, yes, it's hard to see that because my deep connection with it. And so in navigating this, back to the navigation part, there's not too much that I can't go and police people.
Yeah.
And so it just reminds me to do this the best that I can in my integrity. And those that do get to experience it with me or come to the jungle or sit with me, then, hey, they don't have to go through like those big learning curves that I did of sitting somewhere that they're like, whoa, that sent me further back than moving me forward.
Yeah.
You know? And so seeing this right now in the community and society, just I'd like to share just to be aware, to ask the questions, to really before you go into these experiences, like really sit with yourself and see what comes up, because it'll tell you, you know, like the intuition is there.
Yeah.
It'll tell you, it's like, well, maybe I shouldn't be sitting with this person, you know? Right. And so, but nonetheless, I also can see where, hey, that's part of the learning process. So, you know, some people have to go through these experiences nonetheless.
I've recommended so many people to go to Journey to Peru with you.
Yeah.
You know, because of that fact. And maybe some are going to learn the hard way. And there's a part of us, just in general, as humans, as adults, that has to use our discernment. Mm-hmm. And in our seeking, to not be too hasty, to not be in such a rush that we put ourselves in danger. I think there's a piece there. It's not up to me to say what's dangerous or what's not. But,
yeah.
I also believe who am I to say what the medicine wants to do or where to be? Maybe that medicine feels real good in Kentucky.
Yeah, there's.
You know, I think there's a show like Kentucky.
Yeah, there's some show like that. I tell people, if you can, come to the jungle, come to the source always. Yeah. The way I've learned, even in carrying medicines, and if I'm gonna apprentice or something, go to the source.
Go to the source.
Yeah, because there's just getting the direct teachings from the land, from the indigenous, from the sounds, from the surroundings, from the environment, like all those play a part. Versus, yeah, you could have and by all means, you could have an amazing ceremony here in Joshua Tree.
Yeah,
right.
I did. Yeah,
absolutely. Exactly.
Absolutely.
And so I don't take that away. I'm like, okay, yeah, people have amazing experiences, but then also connect it to go into the jungle or go into a source so that you go like, oh, that's where, because we don't want to break that chain.
Right.
You know, and that's where some of the stuff that we're seeing is because some of the chain gets broken. And so people don't have the connection like, oh, that's what this medicine feels like on this land with Icaros from
the people who brewed the medicine.
Yeah.
And from the people who
their lineage, they learned from their grandfather, literally. You know, the woman I sit with, she's learned her songs from her grandfather, and I asked her, what are these songs you're singing? And she's like, oh, this song is of the struggle of how they've survived and kept their lineage going. Like she's telling the story of her lineage, and I could see she starts getting teary-eyed about it. I'm like, whoa, she's bringing that through, and I'm hearing it first person, basically. So it's like I'm listening to her grandfather and his grandfather. I'm listening directly to me.
Yeah.
You know, and so there's a deep appreciation for that, and that's why I tell people like, hey, come and experience that so that you understand the deep connection. Because if you go out here and you have a cacao ceremony somewhere, and you're like, wow, that was just amazing experience. Like, yeah, obviously you can, but then you don't get the full story of the depth of this medicine directly from their mouths, right. You know? And so some people are creating their experience of a medicine or a ceremony from that point, from where they just sat with that person that maybe didn't apprentice, and they go like, wow, this person knows, this is how it's done. So it's starting from here versus the whole chain of the lineage and teachings.
Yeah.
You know?
And now you've got some Shipibo textiles tattooed on your body.
Oh man, that's
I actually was just watching you the other day as you were getting tattooed, that big leg piece. And was she telling you like what the patterns
and it was, you know, for me to do that was a big step also, just to be like, feel honored enough to do that.
What did the family or the people in the jungle think? Seeing you tattooed?
They loved it. They were like, wow, and they were telling me exactly what it meant, which was awesome, which I already knew, but I wanted to see what they would say. And I could see how they were like, wow, that's some of our old patterns from our forefathers.
Yeah.
You know, and I've been researching and looking for this, and being that I've worked with them for so long, like, and they literally baptized me. They gave me a name out there. So when I'm in Peru, they call me Ronin Soi.
Ronin Soi.
Ronin Soi, which is beautiful serpent.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So,
beautiful serpent.
Yeah, so back to the serpent, you know, and they honored me with a full baptism with the name and a kushma, which is the tunic, you know. So they gave me the last tunic that the grandmother had made.
Yeah.
Hand drawn, hand painted. And so like, I'm like, wow, thank you. And this was after 8 years of being there, and they just had seen me showing up and doing the work with them and helping them. And so I was honored with that. And so along those lines, like, it just came through, just getting this deep symbolism, you know, on my body, because that's what courses through me even.
Yeah. Do you see your work and your involvement in all of this as preserving the tradition? Like, do you have a awareness that what you're doing is actually contributing to preserving the tradition?
You know, I think in some of like what we're doing right now, just sharing the story is preserving it. Mm. You know, so I see that, and the stories that I'm able to walk away with from there that I can share that people may never hear about or experience, like, that keeps them alive. Like, that keeps their story alive. That keeps their ancestors alive.
Yeah.
Bringing it through. And so I've seen that part, because there've been times that I was like, I think I'm done doing this. I'm ready to step away. I'm like, that's enough. And then usually the medicine would be like, just be the bridge. Like, it's not about you. It's about everything. You know, and so I'm able to get out of that way, get out of my own way,
yeah.
and assist in that way. You know, even if it's a small part. Mm-hmm. You know, because I take somebody down there and they come back and they have a huge impact on the world. Like, yeah, that's amazing. The story continues. Yeah. I mean, we're here because the stories have continued. Yeah. Somebody has carried the true stories, has shared it, and we've heard it, and so we're all carrying a little piece of it. And so, you know, I bring the stories back and these experiences, but I don't know what goes on, where it ripples out to there, and I don't need to. It's not about me. It's about like keep that story going directly from them, so that once again I get to tell the story of what she's singing to you, and you could tell that story to somebody else, Or if you go and you meet her, you get to experience that and share that. That's the grassroots. That's the vine permeating through all this.
Yeah. It's amazing. From Crocodile Dundee to the beautiful serpent.
Yeah.
Embrace
of the serpent.
Embrace of the serpent.
Yeah, there's a movie that's called Embrace of the Serpent, and it's just like, I was like, ooh, that's it right there.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so I see this, I see how we say ancient future because it's exactly that. We're connecting all this in this time, in this period right now, right now opening this portal and grounding exactly that. It's happening in real time.
In this moment.
Like we're so fortunate to actually get to witness it with our own eyes. Yeah. That like whatever stories, that right now what we're doing here with the men's work, we're going to share the story. And this is the story that they're going to be sharing 100 years from now. The same as she's telling me the story of her grandfathers. Yeah. There's going to be somebody down the road talking about this exactly. And we'll be the great-great-great-grandfathers. Yeah. There was some men that did this work. And here's
their songs, and here's their symbols, and here's their stories.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what I mean by when I could see the past and see where we are now and see what's going to be in the future. That's the ancient future connection.
Yeah. And we are the living ancestors, incarnated into these bodies at this time, and I believe for a specific purpose. We all come equipped. We all come prepared, and then we forget.
Yeah, there's the great forgetting. Yeah, but we're in the great remembering right now too.
Yeah, well, the journey of this life is the remembrance. But I want to get esoteric and weird with you.
Yeah,
as we're wrapping, because if somebody's listening this far, like let's get to the juice. We have had so many conversations under the stars around the fire that I cherish so deeply in my heart. Looking up at Orion. Yeah. And just, since I've sat with the medicine, I have had connections with that constellation that, like, it has a humming. There's a hum that, like, I can feel it, and I look up, and it's like this whoom, 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 whoom. And for me, it's like this, there's a piece of, like, that I may have come from there, that there's some part of me that is home for. Mm-hmm. And, in our fireside conversations, you have shared with me a story where you went back to the other side, maybe the place between when we're born and when we die.
Yeah.
And what happened there?
Oh, that's a maybe that was a story that we've been talking about, because there's I had this and I didn't even know if it was a dream, a vision, but it was just this idea that I had that I kind of remembered why I came. And I was like, well, I'm not going to like just say like, this is why I'm here. This is, right. It was just like this kind of this idea, or this feeling, you could say. And it wasn't until I was on a dieta in the jungle and I read this book that really kind of solidified and confirmed it for me. Journey of the Soul. And it was this gentleman that did, hypnosis. He was a therapist. And so he did these past life regressions for people, but then he was able to follow their soul from the past life into the soul part. Like, okay, where's the soul
realm?
Into the soul realm. And so he started working that. And these were case studies. So the book is case studies of how he started like inquiring and learning how to inquire of like what's going on now, talking to the soul, not as the person that they died as. And so over time, he developed a series of questions and how to guide the person. And I'm reading this and I'm like, whoa, this is clicking really fast. It's like confirming exactly what I had seen or felt. Yeah. And it was very distinct for me. It was, people might think it's crazy, but but
it's all right. That's why I put it at the end.
Yeah,
because the crazy they're with us. If you're this far, you're with us. You're with us on this ride.
I felt like I was getting asked, like, I'm like, Fabian, we need you up front, please. Not even Fabian. It was just like, number 5 for the...
It was like, beautiful Serpent. We need you to come back.
Serpent, we need you up front. We got a job for you. If you're willing to take this job, would you do it? Because you've done a good job of it before. And I was like, ooh. And I remembering, I'm like, damn, that's a tough one. Like, ooh, that's tough. But damn, it was fun. And I was like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, under 3 conditions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said.
And just to be clear, what the job is to come back into a body, to come back to this earth.
Yeah.
And to have a life.
Yeah, have a life. And to go help down there.
To go help.
Yeah, go help.
To be of service.
To be of service.
Wow.
And I remember the hesitancy of it. And it was like, yeah, I'll do it. But can I have some conditions? Can I throw in a couple things here?
Can we negotiate about this before I go?
Yeah, and it was like, okay, what is it? And it was, give me a good vehicle to get around with, to do this job,
but
to do this mission.
Not a vehicle.
No, not a vehicle. Just a temple.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's been something that over time I've been like, oh, okay, I tapped into like working out and building my body and it's been proof. I'm like, man, I feel young. I just turned 46, just a couple, this month, and I feel like, I was with you. Yeah, you were with me on my birthday.
You had a great birthday in Costa Rica.
Costa Rica Vision Festival. and I feel like, yeah, that's part of that. Like I've been able to do this with this body.
Yeah,
so grateful for that. And the second request was I want to be able to do this mission and express it and get the word out through the arts. I want to be art. I want to be the art. And so I see everything as art. Everything that comes out of me is just an extension of spirit.
Yeah. Whether
it be an instrument or a paintbrush or raven. All those elements is just art like flowing through me. And I feel like art is capturing the essence of the divine, like God is in the detail. It's even in the aesthetic.
Yes.
All those things. So that is the art form. I was like, whoa, I became the art form myself. And then the third one was, give me a connection, a way to call back home.
Yeah.
And then for myself,
that's the fear, right? It's the it's the separation from soul and the separation from the all.
Yeah, imagine being on that other side, knowing that you're gonna sever, you're gonna be separate.
Wow.
You're gonna go into this, knowing like, hey, I'm gonna go through this suffering. Right. Okay, but just at least give me a way to call back home. And so what happened? I ended up working with these medicines that just connected me right back, and I knew, and that connection reminded me why I was here. Because coming from and I felt that I was in the expanse of the all-knowing, and to come down into this condensed little zip drive, some of it squeezes out, and there's not room for all of it.
Yeah.
It's in there, don't get me wrong, but it's a compressed file. And so I forget where I came from. I forgot all that. And so now it's the remembering here. There's like the forgetting coming into this, and then there's even though in that infant form, like you were talking about, there's still the remembering. It's still there. Mm-hmm. It's once we start, expanding into this realm that the forgetting happens. Yeah. And so picking up the pieces of remembrance, and what happened, like all those little pieces came through. The connection, working with the medicines, working on my own physical vessel. Expressing through sound and art forms. Like,
were you tattooing in prison?
Yeah.
So you were even bringing the art through in prison?
In there, yeah.
Yeah.
Picked it up in there. And these raw elements, so to say. I mean, there I was tattooing with just straight guitar string and toothbrush.
and a Bic pen.
Yeah, and a battery pack. But nonetheless, it was like, I was able to express myself in a good way. And they're like, wow, you draw amazing. Like, can you do this? And it was always doing it because I loved what came out of the person, like what opens up. It wasn't me doing it because like, hey, I like doing this. And well, yes, there's that part, but what brings out from the other, like what flourishes through the art form. When I do sound, what I witness, what comes out from the people there, they're like, whoa, are you tired? I'm like, no, it actually energizes me because I get to be in the blossoming of you. Yeah. I get to witness the awakening of somebody. Like, what better reason to be here than to just be a witness to the awakening of another soul, to another soul remembering why they came here.
Yes.
Like, hey, don't forget, and they get it, and you're like, hey, there you are.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, finding the others.
Yeah.
In that way.
That's how it felt when I first met you, and that's how it feels every time we meet.
Yeah. Yeah. It's exactly that, man.
Yeah.
It really is. It's a knowing. In that knowing is a trusting of it. Like, like I trust you. I'm like, okay, you signed up for the same mission. Like, here we are. Right. We're like all these guys, everybody, all these people that I've met that are doing, and you know what's beautiful? Witnessing people doing their mission in their distinct way. Mm-hmm. Everybody's doing it in a different way that they, whatever, I asked for these, they must have asked for different elements,
Right.
And so, so witnessing everybody doing it, like we're all doing it, and some, they're still awakening to what their expression is, how they're going to fulfill their mission or just to be here. Yeah. I just find the beauty in humanity that we're all expressing ourselves, that we're here doing it, and we're just passing that little light to each other and awakening each other up. And, that's all it is. That's really what we're here for. Just keep passing it along.
Well, let me ask you this. Where does it lead to? Once we reach the 100th monkey, once we hit critical mass, mm-hmm. Where does this go?
What's the next thing?
In your vision, in your feelings?
I mean, without it being like, hey, we reached some utopian thing or some, whatever it is. Yeah. As much as I've seen what that is also, it doesn't matter because it's like being in the present moment right now, working toward that, like that'll come and what it is.
Go.
Yeah, again. It'll come and go. And hey, we might come back and do this all over again because this was pretty fun. Yeah. But nonetheless, like, yes, maybe I haven't seen it, but I know what that feels like. I felt it before. And I'm like, wow, I know what that feels like. So let's do this. Let me do what I'm doing now for all of us to get to that so that all of us can remember. Once we all remember, well, I mean, we'll all be looking at each other in these ways, like, hey, we did it. We made it. Whatever that is, it doesn't matter what it is, what that means. But just knowing that we've all made it, that we've expressed, we've came into our fullest selves, what we came to do, that's all is being asked. Yeah. That's really all this is to be yourself in the fullest way that you possibly can. Express it. Like, be it. That's it.
I really feel you being it. I really witness you being it. Not only being the medicine, but being the art. You've crafted your life into art in so many ways. It's really beautiful to receive. And I know so many brothers in our community have been impacted by you specifically. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing your gifts and sharing your beauty and sharing your art with us.
Yeah. And it just, that propels me, hearing just from one brother or, if I came here and I just heard it from one brother or one person, like, that'd be enough. That's enough. I'm like, my job's done here. But being able to, like, reach even more people, like, I'm like, whoa, how can we do this? And so all of us coming together, I mean, this is the unity aspect of it, that like all the more there are of us, the more that we could reach. And so I see more coming in. I'm finding the others. They're coming, and we just need a small percent to really tip the scales.
Oh yeah. The floodgates are open.
Yeah, it's open. It's already happening. Coming in. Yeah.
And not only the brothers, the men, the women, the young ones.
Everybody.
These young kids who are coming up right now.
Yeah.
My sons are full-on sacred sons.
Oh, it's we're going to witness, in our lifetime, we're going to witness something that we can never have imagined. yet we've felt, yet we've seen, and yet we've been there.
Yeah.
And so that's exciting also.
May we reach new heights that we only dare to dream of. We dare to dream.
Wing to wing.
Wing to wing.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. All right. That feels like a great place. So with that, is there any message? Is there any prayer that you would like to leave with me and with the brothers and the sisters who are listening to this?
Yeah, it's exactly that. What I was talking about is just find it. You know, seek what's seeking you, but also stop seeking because it's already within you. You know, but that's the journey that we're here doing. You know, that's what I've done.
Yeah.
And so I encourage everybody to just find your medicine. Find your medicine, whatever it is, whether it's Sacred Sons, whether it's anything, whether it's coming to the jungle, whether it's song. It's like, yeah, find the medicine. It's there for you. It's everywhere.
Thank you for finding your medicine. Thank you for sharing it, and for all that you do. Yeah, man. See you, love you, honor you.
Thank you. And you know, also, if anybody ever wants to reach out, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
Like, find me.
I'll say this direct to camera. If you are interested, if you are seeking this medicine of ayahuasca, please check out journeytoperu.com.
Yeah.
And this Fabian is one who I recommend brothers and sisters have this experience with in a good way. And while there are many options and medicine is coming in all forms and spaces are limited, just reiterating that it's worth it. It's worth it not to rush into it and to experience this in a way that's connected to lineage.
Yeah. Yeah. And if it resonates, you know, if I resonate with them, then hey, reach out and I can share more with them.
All right. With that, Fabian, Realization, Nation, Adam Jackson, Sacred Sons. We're out, family. Peace.